Vauxhall's Astravan is a reminder of how compact LCVs used to be. It's estate car based and rather proud of it, with good looks and decent driving dynamics. Other rivals are more practical and may stack up better on the balance sheet, but they might not prove to be as appealing to own. Let's find out why.
Once upon a time, not so long ago, all compact vans were merely cars with blanked out windows. Some of them still are, but they tend to be Super Mini-based commercial vehicles at the smallest end of the scale. Just above this level, businesses back in the 80s and the 90s who wanted a compact van would usually opt for a vehicle that was a family hatchback-sized estate car-based compact LCV, a vehicle based on a model like Ford's Escort. Now, most brands have long ago abandoned that kind of approach in favour of purpose-built, purpose-designed LCVs. But Vauxhall still believes there to be a market for the older approach, exactly as you'll find it with this Astravan. This is the British-built 5th generation version, with a heritage that goes all the way back to 1982. You can see why Vauxhall still wants to make it. You don't, after all, have to do much marketing for a van when over 50% of its sales are swallowed up by customers who, having owned one before, just unquestioningly sign an order form for another. Yes, for the same kind of money, these customers could have got a purpose-designed LCV with a considerably larger load space, a more versatile cargo area, and a bigger payload. But in opting for something else, they'd also have had to opt for a product that was dumpier looking, duller to drive, and might struggle to fit into the average low-roof garage. All very good reasons why this van has such a loyal following. Let's look a little closer at what it has to offer. Now, you wouldn't think that driving satisfaction would rate very highly amongst the priorities of van buyers more concerned with carriage capacities and running costs. And you'd be right, up to a point. There are, though, a significant number of business owners who actually drive the vans they buy, who actually take a pride in the LCVs they own. Now, this is something that the volume brands have begun to recognise in recent years. Ford, for example, introducing a series of sport van body kits to jazz up more mundane models. This Astravan, in contrast, doesn't really need jazzing up, though it looks quite smart when you do. It's a good-looking product that's actually rewarding to drive. So good, in fact, that 888, the motorsport company that used to run Vauxhall's British touring car programme, even built a high-performance version once. Overall, this is, in essence, an Astra estate with stiffened suspension, but a whole range of engineering changes have been made to make this vehicle more suitable for commercial work. So the chassis and the front axle have been changed, altered to suit various different engines, and the hydraulic steering has been tweaked too, to vary its assistance based on the vehicle's speed and the rate of wheel turning. The result of all this careful tweaking is well-weighted steering that also gives you an 11.1 metre turning circle. You also get an accomplished performance on poorly surfaced roads where the front end soaks up bumps very effectively. There's also tons of grip, which inspires confidence, particularly in wet conditions. The 6-speed gearbox is accurate, though can feel a little reluctant in moving through the lower ratios. On longer trips, the only drawback is the level of noise emanating from back there in the rear, caused through the lack of a full-height bulkhead. As for engines, well, the all-CDT diesel lineup starts with a 90 PS 1.3 litre engine, which has Vauxhall's green-friendly package of EcoFlex efficiency modifications, and manages 200 newton metres of torque at 1,750 RPM. It's probably as much as most businesses will need, with muscular responses that belie its modest power output. But if you do want to go to the next stage up, well, it lies with the 1.7 litre CDTI that I'm driving here, that has 240 newton metres of torque, enough to boost this vehicle's braked trailer towing weight from 1,300 to 1,400 kilograms, though that's probably not enough for most businesses to offset the rising running costs that go with moving away from the EcoFlex entry-level diesel unit. If you want a bit more power from your Astravan, then you're going to need a 1.9 litre CDTI, probably the 120 PS variant that can be ordered with either manual or automatic transmission. At the top of the range is a 150 PS version of this same engine. The proposition here is very simple. We're looking at a modified version of Vauxhall's older Mark V 2004 to 2009 generation Astra estate that's been designed to retain the feel of its passenger-carrying base vehicle while offering a long, low cargo area immediately behind the front seats. Now, this Astravan inherits the sharp lines of its donor model, with the prominent V on the front grille and the large pointy light clusters, as well as the roofline that slopes away towards the back. The question is, though, can it be practical enough to offer a realistic alternative to purpose-designed compact LCVs? It's certainly nicer than one of those behind the sporty three-spoke steering wheel. Commercial vehicle interiors are usually bland, no-nonsense affairs with the emphasis placed on tough construction and sturdy materials. Here, though, it's all very car-like, with a soft-touch dashboard, intelligently positioned controls and a metallic-look centre console. At the wheel, it's almost exactly as it is in the Astra passenger car. It's a more low-set driving position, which isn't ideal for repeated entries and exits, but is infinitely preferable on longer journeys. So it doesn't really feel much like a van at all. It helps that everything seems to have been decently screwed together by the Liverpool factory, though I should point out that the seats have actually been altered from those in the Astra passenger car, with longer squabs to make long working hours at the wheel more comfortable. Now, you can't actually push these seats very far back, which might be a problem for longer limbed users, but at least you can alter their height, which, along with a reach and rake adjustable steering wheel, should mean that it's possible for most users to get pretty comfortable. True, there's not quite as much storage space as you'd find in a more LCV-orientated design, but you do get a cup holder behind the handbrake, a decently sized glove box, door bins that are shaped to hold things like A to Z books, and storage compartments both under the handbrake and at the bottom of the centre console. List pricing suggests that you're likely to be paying somewhere in the £15,000 to £18,000 bracket for your Astravan, excluding the dreaded VAT. In base trim, you're looking at a premium of about £500 to move between the different engine levels. But unless you're regularly going to be carrying heavy loads, I'd think twice before bothering. And in any case, if you're regularly going to be carrying heavy loads, this probably isn't the right vehicle for you to be considering anyway. What it boils down to is that for most businesses, the entry-level 1.3 litre CDTI variant will be quite sufficient for most needs. As for rivals, well, for the prices being asked, you're looking at paying about the same as you would be for a comparably powerful Ford Transit Connect. You're looking at about £1,000 more than you pay for a comparable Fiat Doblo Cargo, and about £1,500 more than you'd pay for a comparable Citroën Berlingo or Peugeot Partner. But all of these are purpose-designed LCVs that don't have this Astra's advantages in terms of car-like dynamics and looks, but of course will be more practical to own. It really comes down to what you want. There are no petrol options available for Astravan customers these days, so it's an all-CDTI diesel lineup, starting with a 90 PS 1.3 litre unit and progressing to the 100 PS 1.7 litre CDTI that I've got here. Above that lies a 120 PS 1.9 litre CDTI that you can also order with automatic transmission, and a 150 PS version of the same unit. Gross vehicle weights range between 1,905 and 1,995 kilograms, and whichever Astravan variant you choose, equipment levels are a strong point. All models feature a pollen filter, remote control central locking, a vehicle immobiliser, electric windows, CD stereo and height adjustment for the driver's seat. Popular options include air conditioning, rear parking sensors, sat-nav and an unglazed rear tailgate. Safety-wise, anti-lock brakes, electronic brake force distribution, emergency brake assist, cornering brake control, the ESP Plus stability system and understeer control logic are all there to try and ensure that you don't have an accident. If one should occur, there are no side airbags, but there are twin front airbags and Vauxhall's PRS pedal release system. First, let me state the obvious. Businesses who prioritise outright carrying capacity won't be first in line for an Astravan. For between £500 to £1,500 less than this Vauxhall, you can get a purpose-designed compact LCV from the Citroën Berlingo Ford Transit Connect class that will give you almost twice as much carriage capacity from a load area that you can load from both sides as well as just from the back. You'll get 20% more payload too. Those are the downsides to a vehicle that you need to balance against its better dynamic drive, its sportier looks, and the convenience of the way that it can slide easily into low multi-storey car parks and under the roofs of domestic garages. Many potential buyers will have no trouble at all in making that equation add up. My computer support company, for example, very happily runs a whole fleet of these. Their operators rarely carry heavy loads. They like the way that this vehicle can nip around town, and they feel very comfortable taking their Astravans home and parking them on their driveways. So what do you need to know if, like them, you like this vehicle's more car-like LCV approach? Well, let's start as usual at the business end. There's a glass rear tailgate, which the more security-minded can order with an opaque covering. If you lift it up, well, you might have trouble getting a forklift close enough to the back of the vehicle to fully exercise this cargo bay's ability to swallow a fully loaded, laterally inserted Euro pallet, but at least there's a reasonably low loading height of 591 millimetres. There's certainly nothing wrong with the loading aperture here. 766 millimetres high, 1024 millimetres wide. But if you're used to more purpose-designed compact LCVs, you'll have to get used to not having side doors, so everything has to be loaded in from the back. So exercising the full 1825 millimetre load area length can seem sometimes like pushing cards into a letterbox. At the end of the loading area, you've got a half-height bulkhead, which you can opt to extend to roof height with a mesh partition. Now, this is called the Flex Fit system, and by means of a flap in the bulkhead and a fold-forward front passenger seat, it does give you the option to extend the loading length to 2,680 millimetres. So what I'm saying is that the load area can be long, even if at 1.58 cubic metres, it's not especially big. There's 1,376 millimetres of load area width, narrowing to 1,103 millimetres between the wheel arches. It is a bit frustrating though, thanks to just 900 millimetres of load space height, not to be able to get in and move things around. If you're going to be carrying heavy loads, then you're going to want to know about the 650 kilogram payload. Though use all of that and you risk overloading the rear axle, hence the importance of the optional manually operated rear suspension levelling system. Now, for really heavy items, there are 6 tie-down points dotted around the cargo bay floor, but if you forget to use them and everything slides forward, then you've got the 1/3 height bulkhead that I mentioned earlier, separating the cargo bay from the cab. Now, just in front of this, beneath a tailored load area floor mat, which, like these half-height protective side panels, is there to prevent the cargo bay getting unduly scratched, you've got 2 very useful underfloor compartments, which are there to conceal valuable things like power tools. As for operating costs, well, service intervals are set at every 20,000 miles or every 12 months. And when you lift the bonnet, you'll find that you've got easy access to the dipstick, the oil filler point and the screen wash reservoir. Now, all Astravans are protected by the usual 3-year, 60,000 mile warranty with no mileage limit in the first year, and there's 6 years of anti-perforation bodywork cover. Lowest running costs are championed by the entry-level 90 PS 1.3 litre CDTI EcoFlex model, which manages 57.6 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and puts out 130 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now, if you opt for the next model up, that's this one, the 1.7 litre CDTI with 100 PS, then your running cost figures aren't much different. But if you go for the 120 PS 1.9 litre CDTI, those figures fall to 50.4 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 149 grams per kilometre of CO2. Insurance groupings range between 2E and 3E. It's the very design that confers upon this Astravan its practical limitations that makes it so appealing to its loyal band of buyers. Not every business, after all, needs ultimate carriage capacity and payload from a compact van of this type. And for those that don't, this one compensates with good looks and car-like handling. It'll handle longer journeys better and sit both in your driveway and in your garage more comfortably. And this is certainly a vehicle that owner-drivers will feel happier about using outside of working hours. Now, for all these reasons, it's hard to deny this Vauxhall place in the modern LCV market. A vehicle that's more than just a working tool, a van you could actually get to like. Now, there's a refreshing change.